All right, then at 6:04 p.m., I will call to order the February 9th meeting of the Essex Elementary School Building Committee. And we have to do that by roll call vote. So if you're online, can you please unmute and be ready to just say yes. Emily Dwyer.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Approved.
Mike Gerhart. Mike Gerhart.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Tyler Burden. Tyler says yes. Jen Hockerman, I just saw join.
Yes.
In person. Say your name.
Kim, yes.
Just name full name.
Kim Provost, yes.
I'm not voting no.
But
Kim Field, yes, sorry. Michelle Russo, yes.
Teresa Whitman.
Dave Green, yes.
Charlie Hay.
Michelle Cresta.
Yes. Thank you. We are all in attendance. Let's see, meeting minutes. We have minutes from, someone remind me of the date.
January 26th.
January 26th. Any clarifying questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from January 26th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Michelle moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Kim Provo. Any discussion? All in favor by roll call vote, starting online. Emily?
Yes.
On.
Approved.
Mike? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Might put it in the chat. Jen?
Yes.
Person Kim?
Yes.
Yes. For Teresa? Yes for Charlie?
Yes.
Yes for Michelle. The roll call vote, motion passes. All right, invoices. We have two invoices tonight. One is for JCJ Architecture in the amount of $40,137.13. And the other is for Doran Whittier in the amount of $44,288. Michelle, have you had a chance to look at these?
Yes, I have reviewed the invoices, all of you are in order, and I recommend approval.
Okay. Any clarifying questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the invoices as presented.
So moved.
Kim Provo moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Michelle Cresta. Any discussion? All right, online. Emily.
Yes.
Come back to John. Mike.
Yes, Mike.
Tim.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Yes.
Person Kim.
Yes.
Teresa's a yes. Charlie.
Yep.
Michelle.
Yes.
All right, motion approves and our invoices are to be paid. Thank you. MEP working group update.
Good. Okay, so we had our first MEP working group meeting, and it was really just an introduction to the mechanical systems and plumbing systems that would be good systems for this size project. Wasn't making any decisions about what particular system. The various systems that we propose will be carried throughout the PSR phase. And when we get to a preferred scheme, then we'll do life cycle analysis and really pick the system. So some initial topics that we talked about that we want to consider in MEP systems are improved air quality, a high level of filtration, such as the MERV 13 and 14 filters. Obviously being very high energy efficiency, energy recovery and demand ventilation, the high level of thermal comfort, and also low noise. The ability to control noise is something that will feed into LEED as well. And then the automatic temperature control and building energy management systems. So you'll hear us talk a lot about BMS. that's your building management system. So those are all topics that we're looking at when we're looking at different systems. Next slide.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. So the mechanical systems that we talked about for our code upgrade or system repair option, for the existing Essex Elementary School, would really be looking at replacing the unit ventilator system, in the gas-fired boiler plant. It doesn't mean that we have to do that. We're definitely also looking at the other options that are listed on this slide. But that would be one of the options that would be very specific to a code upgrade repair option, as opposed to the other three, which would be more geared towards renovation, addition, or your new scheme, new construction scheme. So the second option is the air source variable refrigerant flow with the dedicated outdoor air systems. This system is nice because it does have lower piping costs. You only have your refrigerant piping. You don't need a boiler or a chiller plant. That's not needed for this system. And the cabinets have both heating and cooling, so there's some savings there as well. Some of the challenges that we talked about with this system is that you're doing maintenance, the cabinets are in your occupied spaces. So if you have to do maintenance, you've got to do it when there's no class in session. You're going to be doing it after hours or before hours. And sometimes there can be a noise associated with the heater. This is the system that is currently in our PDP estimate for all of the options. That was done simply to give us a baseline so that when we go into the PSR, we're now going to be looking at cost estimates for all of these options. So we'll get a sense of how that plays out. Option 3 that we talked about is the VAV displacement system with the passive radiant heating and cooling panels. This is what you currently have in the Manchester Memorial School. So that's a system that some of you are living and experiencing. So any pros and cons of that as we move forward would be good feedback. What's good about this system is that it does help to remove pollutants. It's a lower noise because of the lower, or partially because of the low air velocity, low moisture to deal with high population areas like gymnasiums. There's no condensate drains or refrigerant piping. The one caveat that we talked about with this particular system is that you do have to, as it says on the slide, you do have to, or we recommend strongly that you have a passive radiant cooling and heating panels. So that's, it's typically in the ceiling. You can also have it lower, but when it's on the ceiling, you're not impacting the educational program, like furniture layouts, things like that. And then the fourth option that we talked about was the geothermal option, which I know we've already talked a little bit about in our group. With the result of the bedrock, we are going to have to evaluate what is the cost impact of that, getting through that bedrock to get what we need. So this option, obviously, I think we've already talked a little bit about it kind of informally. Next slide. So for the hot water heater systems, we looked at the 4 options. The first being the high efficiency gas boiler. So that's when your natural gas is heating the water. That will obviously have a little bit of impacts or considerations to the utility incentives. You know, there's conversations that we've had in the past with Massachusetts and where they're going in terms of gas. So that's a challenge with that option. Option 2 is the electric resistance. So your electrical heating is heating the water. And that's a simple operation, simple maintenance. It is in alignment with utility incentives. Option 3 is your air source heat pump, where the electricity and refrigerant is extracting the heat from the air and it's transferring it into the water. Again, that's in alignment with utility incentives. The system is a little bit more complex than the electric resistance. Option 4 is the water source heat pump, where your electricity and refrigerant is extracting the heat from a water source, such as like a well. And obviously, again, that gets into the bedrock discussion that we have on site. So really high level, those were some options that we talked about. Again, not making any decisions right now. We're going to carry it through the PSR phase. Additional considerations is what I touched upon already, the supplemental heating, cooling with radiant panels. We tend to do this in a lot of our schools, whether it's piggybacked with a mechanical system or not, just because it does help with just thermal comfort. Yeah. It's also nice because if your primary system goes down for some reason, or it's just it just needs repair, you have that secondary system that is helping to alleviate while your primary system is down. And then obviously the BMS system, that's going to be, regardless, you're going to have that in your school. The benefits of that is you can have control over zones. You can it'll control whether it's an occupied or unoccupied space. Lighting control, things like that. So I mean that's kind of a given that you'll have that system. And that was really what we touched upon. It was kind of like an intro. So I think the next MEP working group would likely be happening once we have a preferred plan, a preferred scheme, and then we can start digging into how each of these options really affects the plan that we have. And we can go through the life cycle. We can really start looking at the costs.
So the decision ultimately on the preferred scheme would come in schematic design?
Right,
Okay.
right.
And for the purposes of this coming submission, you're using, I think you said, which one you have one that's sort of the default one.
In the PDP, we had option 2.
Option 2 will be for the PDP cost estimate.
Well, as we go through the PSR cost estimate, I think we're going to ask them to give us a gauge, whether it's additional monies or lower monies, depending on the different
So
systems.
doesn't that make somebody of a decision point then all of a sudden? Don't you?
No, I think it's, well, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we're able to get a little bit of cost feedback on the different options at the end of the PSR phase, then when we go into schematic design, we would have that feedback to assist our conversations as to what option is going to be good for us. Yeah, so.
It's come up in these meetings. I just have to say, I just think option 4 is, I
Yes.
don't understand quite why it's even on the table.
Mhm.
I mean, why are we talking about it?
And that came up in the working group as well, is I don't think the working group wanted to remove it from the conversation, but if the SPC wants to remove it from the conversation, that's I certainly,
Hours.
Well, I
it's certainly an open.
I think there's value because that's something that gets discussed in the public right now. It's and people who aren't well versed in what this is will be asking that. Did you consider geothermal? So
Right.
so there may be just value for optics to yes, we did. And
There was a
here's
price
pretty
tag.
Exactly.
easily able
Pretty
to
surprised.
let that go.
Exactly. I think that once you see what the number is going to be associated with it, that discussion will be easy to have for this group.
Yeah, but good for people to see that it was
100%.
part of it since it's
Done your homework.
exactly. I have a question on these. So if Manchester Memorial has option 3, the VAV displacement system currently, what's the rationale for using option 2 in the PDP?
So, Manchester Memorial right now, has the backup boiler that it's using gas. So we were moving to option two, based upon the idea that the state seems to be moving away from gas and going towards the all electric. So that's why we wanted to carry option three through, but we wanted to have option two be the one that, I mean, we carried that in the PDP with that mindset.
It's a new information. We have
Yeah.
new and better.
Aren't the utility incentives now to the point where they will only incentivize all electric buildings?
Yeah, actually,
So like,
Correct.
yeah,
only going to, so if we're interested potentially, or the towns are interested in getting incentives, and they wish to have an all electric building just because it's so incentivized.
yeah, it's different, just those few years between Manchester Memorial and now.
The whole pathway one thing.
Will you be providing us with cost analysis between utilizing the rebates, versus
Yeah.
no?
I can jump in here. During the schematic design, once we've narrowed the option down and we start to really delve into each system in detail, we'll do what's called a life cycle cost analysis. And we'll look at over a span of 30, 40, even 50 years, what are the system replacement costs, maintenance costs, upfront costs, estimated operating costs. And we're going to present a lot of information to the MEP working group so that we can make a really informed choice. And that will include federal, state, utility incentives, any money anywhere that we can find to help us out, we're going to look for.
I see that Tim has his hand raised. I'm going to go to him in a second. So just as a reminder to us all, ask your questions, but we are at the very highest level of conversation here. So that's where we are. Tim, go ahead. And I saw your question about getting on the working group also. We'll address that too.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about option three. I believe it's possible, isn't it, to still move that one forward with a backup of electric resistance. Is that not correct? Instead of gas, I'm working on a very similar project right now, and we are not allowed to bring gas into the building. So that requires us to have a backup resistance boiler, which would solve that. So I guess I'm just trying to suggest that that be kept on the table because I think it's a really good one.
Okay, we can do that.
And regarding being on the working groups, if anyone has, and this really goes at any time, if anyone has interest in shifting or adding working groups, send an email to Pam and Christina.
Yep.
And we can make those shifts.
And Rachel too.
And Rachel. Send it to everyone. Just send it to me. Send it to Pam.
Copy of it.
She'll take care of it. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for the update. And who's going to take the design update?
That will be me. So we had a robust conversation at the last SBC meeting, and we took the comments and feedback and questions that we heard, and have done another pass through the design options. So starting with the code upgrade, really nothing has changed on this one because the program is really locked into the existing building. One thing I'd like to point out on this plan before we start going to some of the other schemes is the extent of the wetlands. And Fawn talked a bit about this with the wetlands mapping exercise. So you can see the bottom left of the pond, that one's relatively straightforward. To the right of that is the intermittent water course, which is a drainage outfall from the pond. The 100-foot buffer around that really goes right into the east wing of the building, the dotted line. So there's the encroachment on the pond corner and at that stream side. And then on the top of the page, the wetlands, which on the GIS information looks like a boomerang going off the page. It turns out there's a lake that goes down right up to the back of the service loading zone into the kitchen. So when you take that 100-foot buffer the westernmost classrooms and the kitchen are all in the buffer. So just as an observation, it's gonna be really hard to avoid all of the wetlands buffers. Next. Actually, next one right after that. So that's the bottom floor of the code plan. So this is the ad reno option that we presented last week. There's still some advantages to it, but we have an iteration on it. So just as a reminder, this is adding just over 20,000 square feet of addition, gym and stage, and 4 classrooms, which here we indicate is like a 4th and 5th grade cluster. And then that gives you swing space to then move around the additions or the renovations in the existing building. There is room for a service road around the perimeter, and I'll show a site plan in a moment. If you go to the next one with the bottom floor, I think one of the challenges with this is that there's that lower level area. So which student occupied program would you put in that area? So in this scenario, we had the 2 pre-K rooms with the idea being that they're more easily segregated in that they're not integrated with other grade levels, although there is a desired adjacency to kindergarten. That obviously is not happening in this scenario. Next slide. So the site plan for that, the red dotted line, you can see a new full perimeter access road. And then the proposed play areas are in kind of a beigey brown, and then a play field in the current location, maybe a little truncated to accommodate the play area. Circulation is a bit challenging in that the community entry is on the far side, the left side of the diagram here, and most of your parking is on the right-hand side. So there's obviously a disconnect from the program and the site amenities to serve the program. So we were thinking of, in this approach, reconfiguring the loop into a single entry off of Story Street so that you can stack and queue more cars on site around to the main entry. And then the buses would come in off of Story Street as well, discharge along the east side of the building where the bus entry indication is. And then there could be a pre-K drop along that, since you only have 2 buses, but it is intermingling bus and pre-K drop. Next slide, please. So a refinement of that since last week is that, so this actually increases the addition size. So if the pre-K on the lower floor is around 2,600 square feet of net grossed up, if we add an additional approximately 4,000 square feet to the addition, we can actually bring pre-K out of that lower level and put it in the new building, our new part of the building. So in this scenario, instead of 4 or 5 in the addition, we're looking at creating an early childhood area or cluster. So it'd be pre-K, K, and 1st grade. Again, with the gymnasium and the stage. And the rest of the building is substantially the same, with the exception of, so on the lower wing, near the bus entry, instead of K1, 4th and 5th grade fills in there. So there's 2 learning neighborhoods that have direct access into the courtyard. The next slide. So the lower floor would have no student occupied program in this scenario. And this could be either as built, you can build it with additional square footage to get the pre-K out, or it could be a phased future option with the addition configured to do that at some point in the future if the budget doesn't allow initially. Next slide. So one of the other things that the addition is configured so that it's slid further up the plan to the west, so that instead of a full perimeter road, what this has is a turn around between the pond and the addition. And that allows two things, with the pre-K early childhood area in that addition, it allows a drop immediately adjacent to those classrooms. It also allows some potential for the community access to have a drop there as well. So it's trying to mitigate the problem with the parking, although still most of the parking is on the north edge of the site, closer to Story Street. Next slide. So those are the two of the three types of options. That's code reno and add, or code upgrade and add reno. The rest of the slides are about the new construction, or new option, but maybe I just ask, are there any questions or comments so far?
I have a question.
Sure.
In the code upgrade, is there no pre-K classrooms?
You don't have pre-K in the building now.
Correct.
So the code upgrade, we don't change
We're not.
anything.
So,
It's just this building,
right.
period.
So in the evaluation matrix, yeah, in the evaluation matrix, it didn't meet your code, your educational plan.
Okay.
And that's because you don't have enough room. So yeah, I mean, I guess one solution would be you keep pre-K at Manchester, or you squeeze them in, or.
And as soon as you couldn't do a code upgrade in an addition. As soon as you go to an addition, you're in this.
It's a different project. Yeah, it's not a code upgrade
So that
anymore.
is one thing that would work to eliminate.
You don't move any walls with a code upgrade. It just remains exactly the same.
Big fan of the changes to the address.
Okay.
Over here, we're all, yeah, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone else, but I really love the pre-KK, the Young Learning Center up there. I really like that roundabout drop, not just for little kids, but for mobility impaired adults. And I think that you definitely took what we were saying and improved.
Okay, great. All right.
Can I just ask, are you pretty confident on those site plans? You have enough parking?
We did not do a parking count evaluation.
Well, you can do a parking count with what's here, right?
Yeah.
And then you can ask the district whether they have enough parking.
Yes, we did that.
It tells you
Yeah.
how, where we're at,
Mm.
but it just don't look like a lot of parking.
There's not a lot of parking, and a lot of it is on the overflow lot that's up the hill.
Well, right, which is okay, but.
Some of it is also strung along the side.
You wonder if you don't end up with a bunch of parking in the horseshoe in the front, which is not very attractive, but.
Which is kind of the situation now.
Well, I mean more than the horseshoe. I mean an actual surface lot.
Which we do show in some of the other
All right.
options, yeah.
Wait, you might want to do some sort of just not official fancy dancy traffic count, but just
Sure.
look at the plan and see how many spaces you think you have.
Thank you. Okay, and so.
There's more.
We have
people
people
online.
online. So Tim and then Mike. Tim, you want to unmute? Go ahead. All right, we'll go to Mike first. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the playing field here, I assume that's not a full-size playing field. I assume that's some kind of truncated play field. Like, it's not a full soccer field, correct?
It's a U10 size, so it's 125 feet by 190 feet as shown. So the next step up would be a U12, which is 150 by 225. But so you can see the site there's obviously a lot going on with parking and fields and play. And for these test fits that we're showing right now, they're all U10.
All right, thanks.
All right, Tim, sorry, that was a leftover hand. No question from Tim. Anyone else online have a question or comments?
Okay.
All right.
So then moving to the new options, we took a step back just to capture some of the questions or discussion about where it's viable on the site to really add or demolish and then build. So there's five kind of basic approaches. They're lettered A through A, B, C, D, E. A little mental math there. So this is what we're calling phasing approach A, which is essentially take the biggest section of the site, build a single phased new construction, and we showed an option that followed this approach last week. Just so for some distances, there's some dimensions. So phase one, you build, phase two, you demolish. And the distances off the wetlands, you can see it's getting relatively tight. I mean, 25 feet, 40 feet from the property line, 60 feet from the pond. So if you have a 100-foot buffer off the pond and you're 60% of it is there and 40% is covered by the building. Go to the next one. So what we called phasing approach B is, so this is, the rest of these are all two construction phase. So you're building half at a time. So in this approach, you build the community wing first. That's the big blue bar. And kind of the rule here is you have to build whatever you're going to demolish next, right? So if we build a community wing, that we could then demolish the existing community wing, which is the 1970s edition. And then over that gives us a little more room to build the academic wing, which is shown in yellow. That's the second phase. And you also need temporary access from the remaining portion of your occupied school across to that community wing. So that would have to happen up near the kitchen service area. And then the third phase is demolition and the site work. You can see here the offsets, still pretty similar, right? It's a 30-foot off the corner near the kitchen, 60 feet from the property line, so you get a little more room over there. Next slide. And I'll show a more detailed option of this later in the presentation. So option C is thinking, well, what if we demolish the cafeteria and the western classroom wing? And since it's a large portion of that is classrooms, we need to build classrooms first. So in the field, you build a classroom wing, demolish that quadrant, the northwest quadrant of the existing building. In phase two, then build the community wing. You need temporary access back across from the library end to the classrooms. And again, you see that the offsets are still relatively in that 20, 30, 60-foot range. You're not gaining a lot of benefit from a wetlands offset perspective. And also in the second phase, it's pretty challenging for site circulation because you're going to need construction access and parking, and your construction access to the blue area is going to be competing with where you'd like to have the loop around Story Street, so you might lose half of your parent draw. Next slide. So phasing approach D looks at that same quadrant being demolished, but you're building on the other side of it, on the Story Street side to start. So the classroom wing is on Story Street along basically where the drop is now. Then you demolish that quadrant and then build the community bar. This is challenging in that your new building is really blocking your Story Street access. Two of your 3 points of access are on Story Street. So the end site layout is going to be very constricted by putting the building on the side. And there's also a lot of elevation change. It's around 14 feet of elevation change from the overflow parking lot down to the Story Street entry. So you're dealing with all that grade across your building and foundations and play areas which want to be close to the building. So it ends up being, you're adding a lot of complexity and cost. Next slide. So this option looks at demolishing the other classroom wing, the east side. So again, you need to build classroom first. The only place you can really do that is on top of that overflow parking lot reaching across the main entry. Then you demolish the corner of the existing building, which by the way is where the mechanical room is, so that's adding more complexity for temporary heating and water. Then you build the community wing and then demolish it. And in a similar way, your building ends up between your Story Street and Western Ave access. So you're kind of going around it. There's some, again, complexities with construction access in that second phase, because you're limiting where parents can access the school, and it's competing with where the contractors are going to want to get into the site, and then how you're getting from the existing classroom wing to the new wing. And again, there's a lot of slope and grade. So of these kind of
Excuse me,
five,
can I ask a question? Sorry to interrupt before you move on. Can you just use your mouse to show where the existing mechanical room is right now? So I'm sure I have that straight.
yeah, just a little to the, keep going to the right. It's under the purple,
Over here.
yeah. Keep
Right in the
going a little-
middle.
Right there.
Thank
And
you.
go, and then down, just, I think it's actually in the bottom corner. Yeah, right
In that-
there.
In that bottom right-hand corner of the existing building. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Access is just to the left of it, under the.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the brown one.
Yeah.
All right, so options A and B strike us as the most viable ones. So we've developed so far options for those are more detailed. So if we can go to the next slide. So we showed a version of this last week. What we've done in response to the conversations is that we've flipped the community and the academic wings, and there's some site layout advantages. And we've also narrowed down the community wing a bit, so there's less jogs and less surface area. So it's going to be more efficient to build and to operate over time. But it's still primarily the same adjacencies and design approach. Go to the next slide. So this is the second floor with the two learning neighborhoods. And then the next slide, on the site plan, by reversing it where we were before, kind of the gymnasium entry was kind of pushed towards the pond. By reversing it, what it does on the site plan is it allows the potential to bring in off of Story Street a dedicated bus loop instead of going all the way around the back of the building with buses. And so we could still have a full perimeter access road, but that could be emergency only, except where you need perhaps service to the kitchen in the northwest corner, which is shown in darker pavement there. So with the buses isolated, there's a very clean parent drive-through. They could drive through from either Western or Story Street with a large loop with two stops essentially on it. So either at the main entry or at the pre-K entry. So this is much more effective at getting a drop right to the pre-K entry, which the way we had it at the last SBC meeting, we were struggling with how to get to the pre-K entry. Next slide. So this is that phasing approach B, where we build the blue bar first, and then the classroom wing second over the 1970s edition. This one is a little different. It's more, the building layout is more orthogonal and kind of square and blocky. And the art, one of the other comments was about the art room being on the upper floor. So this one, we pushed the art room down adjacent to the media center and music room. The classroom neighborhoods are a little different though, and that was in order to kind of square it out. That's the trade-off here. So it's more of a linear corridor approach with kind of articulated learning neighborhoods. So if you go to the next one, you can see this on the second floor, maybe a little clearer. So we're on the sub option A had direct daylight into those breakout spaces. This option B is maybe a little bit more like Manchester where it's corridor based. But we are showing kind of articulation to pair those neighborhoods, breakout spaces together. So second and third grade above, and then fourth and fifth grade below would be kind of facing each other and kind of dialoguing. All right, next. So the site plan right now is very similar to the last option. We could still have a dedicated bus loop drop, still have a large parent drop for both the main entry and the pre-K entry. What you're getting from doing this in two pieces, right? So it's going to take longer because you're building half the building at a time. You're moving the classroom wing more inboard on the site. And so that means the play areas then have to move behind it towards the property line. You're getting farther from the property line, and then you're distributing more playscapes more around the building. So maybe if you can just go back 3 slides just for a comparison. Yeah, that one. So you can see on this one, single phase construction, closer to the property line, minimal options for play. So then the play ends up being between the parent loop, the play fields, and so the bus entry really acts as it's right at the cafeteria as well. So that would be where you come out for recess onto a hardscape play field. You'd have all those kind of clustered here. Where if you would go back to where we were here, it's a little more distributed around.
Are we getting a bigger play field here in
I don't think that was our intent. I don't know graphically. I think.
Okay, so the same.
Yeah, it might be able to enlarge it a little better because some of your play field is around behind, but I think overall the footprint is pretty similar. The building footprint is pretty similar in both approaches. So you have the same site area.
It looked like maybe there's more room for play field.
There might be because you're moving the playscapes behind.
Right.
Maybe you could. Although to your other point, we may end up with more parking, right? Yeah. Okay, so next one last kind of thought or thought experiment here is if we're having trouble with a 2-story footprint, could we do a 3-story footprint? And we have done a 3-story elementary school. This is the Barack Obama Magnet University School in New Haven. It's on a university campus. So it's the University Magnet School. 490 students grade pre-K through 4, 3 stories. It's in a context where all the academic higher ed buildings are 3 to 4 stories. So it fits within the context quite nicely. Next slide. So when you have 3 stories that you're fitting program into, a lot of program that you want on the first floor doesn't fit, right? So you're pulling program up into the building. So in this case, on the first floor, the admin and nurse, which is in purple, cafeteria and gymnasium, which are combined with a movable wall between them, are in blue. The service areas are main boiler room is in gray, and then there's at this school, the student count had basically 3 classrooms per cohort. So there's 3 pre-Ks and 3 Ks, and that's really all you can fit. And then on the second floor, then has grades 1 and 2, 3 classrooms each. But this is where your specials end up: media center, art and music, like project room, and there is an advantage putting on the second floor in that it's halfway between people on the first and the third floor, right? So it's central vertically. The downside, of course, is that K has to go up a floor to go to any of those specials. And then on the third floor is grades 3 and 4 in this case, so 6 classrooms. They're going down 1 floor for any of the specials, and they're going down 2 floors for gym or the cafeteria. And when they're arriving by bus, they're going obviously up 2 floors. So there's some internal operational adjacencies that you deal with, which would be a trade-off for a smaller footprint and increasing distances to the buffers. But if it's a valid approach educationally, we could do some test fits with a 3-story. So that's where we're at. A lot to think about, so I'm happy to take any other further questions or comments.
So this is the time, again, like last time.
Yeah.
Share your feedback, share your,
And we'll incorporate as much as we can.
I'll make a comment. I will go out on a limb and say I am not the person who is professionally involved with all of this, and I defer to those who are on some of these things. But assuming there's kind of equitable plus, I don't despise the idea of the 3 stories for a smaller footprint because it's a tight site. And if it leaves some flexibility for other things, I could see some benefits, even if it's not the most convenient. So I would have been to go without this.
And I just want to also say, it's not uncommon. I've done plenty of elementary schools that are 3 stories. So, I mean, there's many communities to that point where if you have a small footprint and you have a lot of things going around on your site, people build up for that purpose.
Yeah, it isn't that common, and there's some interesting opportunities for zoning. Student. Kind of great about it. You can have a top floor that is sort of kind of at those transition years. They're going, get sort of a middle school academy saying at the top, and then the littlest kids are at the bottom because they don't want to climb the stairs, and the middle grades are sort of this transitional grade. So it can work vertically. I think it through.
I know this side has opinions about it.
I'll be the translator.
Well, people respond to it because they're not used to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
How much real estate does it cost for other types of development?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do a test fit yet. We'd have to do that.
This is just getting initial.
This is just showing an example of another. We have 3-story elementary schools are out there.
And in light of the ledge, it might be a benefit to have a small footprint too.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that was gonna be my question. I mean, going up. What's the going up instead of out? What does that do to your square footage cost? Do you find it decreases, increases, or stays the same?
So it would probably be more efficient, more cost effective, less expensive per square foot in that your foundations, you have a smaller foundation footprint, and especially on the ledge, that's going to drive a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, usually your foundations and roof add to your cost. So if you're shrinking that foundation footprint, it's gonna help.
I see Emily's hand up. Go ahead.
Sorry, I put my hand up and then lost my mute button. So I think I'm curious to see the fit of a 3-story. Like Teresa said, I don't want to dismiss it for all of the reasons. But I also have to say I really liked I think it was 2.2A, that site plan and the way that kept the neighborhood feel, as opposed to what I think was 2.2B, which was the more blocky, less neighborhoody. Yeah, so I guess I'm thinking about 2 things. The site plan that I like that the emergency, that one has the full, like you can get all the way behind the building for emergency purposes, a separate bus loop and all of the traffic flow. But I also like the the sort of that it's still able to be neighborhooded in the way that we have really seems to fit what we will be looking for, as opposed to 2.2B, which is just more compact and square and doesn't have that same neighborhoody feel.
Thank you.
I think that's my problem with the 3-story one. I'm kind of agreeing with Emily. I know that's not our school, but it looks to me very hallway-ish and very traditional, as opposed to having the spaces to work together. So I'm not dismissing it, but it doesn't make me feel like kind of what the things are that we're looking forward to if we went to a new build.
Yeah, and just to react to that, so that, I mean, this is in New Haven, Connecticut, it's completely different than Massachusetts, right? And they don't have any breakout spaces. They don't, their student control approach is to keep students in the classrooms. So just by educational programming, it looks very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an astute observation.
I would say that option A 2.2A is probably my favorite of these. One of the things about the 2B one is just the separation between like the play areas and then also that basketball court, like the hard top area. Just thinking for like recess and supervision.
So having
to
one area
be separated, like that makes it more tricky.
Okay, that's good feedback.
Anyone else? Anyone online? This is the time to get it all in so that they can refine for our next meeting.
I actually like the ad random. A lot.
Which one, Pam?
The ad random,
This one?
A 1.2B.
This one right here?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one did, I think that's a better outcome and it helps with phasing. Because you get 6 classrooms to put kids into instead of 4.
And just to say out loud too, Jeff, for this option,
I was just gonna say there's a reimbursable approach.
well, I wasn't gonna say that,
Okay.
but my mind was gonna go there next, but
All right.
just reminder that you are moving walls in this scenario to make them more right size for.
Yeah, so if you go back 2 slides.
Yeah.
Like you can see that, I mean, the quarter walls are primarily in still the same place because, I mean, it's a very narrow footprint and there's not a lot of options where to put the quarter, but all the walls going from the quarter out to the exterior wall, pretty much on those 2 classroom bars have been demolished and relocated, right? So, actually you can just go to either just up a little, maybe where the classroom 2-3 is. Yeah.
Where?
Uh,
Oh, right here.
existing, yeah. So what we're showing is like a pair of classrooms, I know that, see what I'm pointing at, but. So a pair of 3rd grade classrooms, a pair of 2nd grade classrooms with doors across from each other. So you have a relationship in that way. And then a breakout space and a small group so that they're oriented around a central space, breakout space. So you're kind of weaving connections. And then the breakout space has a connection out to the courtyard as well. So there's a lot of interaction and operability, like you get blazing between, it's taking a traditional 1950s, 60s era layout and trying to bring it to modern standards essentially, and while keeping some walls, but demolishing quite a few.
And you also.
So do you have any rooms that you could almost, I mean, I think the MSBA can be sympathetic these days in light of these cost of construction to approving slightly undersized rooms. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any that are sort of just a little undersized.
So the problem though is,
Probably appeals to them.
yeah, the problem though is that it's not just classrooms though, you're trying to add special ed, which are larger and smaller, specials are. So in order to pour in all that program, I don't know the exact percentage of walls, but we left quite a few, like around the media center gym, like the exterior, the high walls are there, but there's additional partitions in between. The cafeteria, the existing dining cafeteria kitchen, the walls around the perimeter are there again, but we've added partitions, demo out the stage, and then add in like a physical therapy room. So it's a balance of functionality versus being cost effective.
So I'm gonna say Kim, then I have a quick question, then I'm gonna go down the line online to get to all of the questions there as well.
On this particular design, I still have concerns about the drop off. If you can go to the other slide that shows where that is. In that front part, the loop with the yellow and the blue going in opposite directions. I'm currently living a weird change in drop off procedure, which has been a nightmare. And I just don't understand that from a safety perspective. And I know I said that before when we were talking about this particular kind of drop off. So that for me is a concern. I like the design, but the drop off main entry is concerning.
Would it be clear if we brought the bus loop where we're showing a parent drop? We could look at whether we could get a bus to turn, which obviously has a larger radius, but if buses came across the community wing and dropped off closer to the new gym.
I don't know. For me, it's the cars going in two different directions because there's got to be a stop sign, which then you're waiting for people and it's going to be just a waiting game. I'm living that on Lincoln Street right now and
Oh, there's only 2 buses, right?
okay.
So it's just the buses that
Just
are
the
going
buses.
that way, because they're the yellow.
Buses are the yellow.
Yeah.
Only the buses able to come that way.
Right, but I guess
Everyone else has
I'm
to
still
go.
thinking about the afternoon. Like we have parents that come and sit there well before dismissal. And they're just kind of sitting, like, I don't know, I just wonder if there's a cleaner way to do just that part of it.
Well, one of the challenges with the ad reno is that the existing building is in the middle of the site,
True.
right? So it really limits what we can do with the site. So we will continually work to improve the layout as much as possible. There's not a lot of options, just because it's the real estate on the eastern side where that intermittent stream is. There's basically just a 24 foot wide single line of pavement. Like it's
So maybe part of the request for going forward is just so that we can understand it a little bit.
yeah.
And see how the flow works. My question that I'm going to go to online is, I wonder if we could hear from the educators at the room here. I brought up a meeting or two ago about the courtyard. Because I like the ad reno concept here and design, and the courtyard to me seems to be just so hit or miss in terms of its use over the years, and I'm wondering how you guys are feeling about the use. Generally speaking, is this something that you're excited to keep there and to have, or is that something that we might ask for a creative option away from?
We don't go out there
I
ever.
know,
I used to when my classroom had a door that went straight out there because I could just take my kids straight out. But now that I don't have a door that connects, it takes a long time to so usually we just go out back if we're gonna use outdoor.
But you did. It's just an issue of access at this
We
point?
did, yes. When it was convenient and easy, I would take my kindergartners up there.
I think the one thing I hear mostly about anything courtyard related is obviously from a maintenance standpoint. How I'm sure difficult it is to get any type of lawnmower or anything outside, and how often is it regularly maintained in order for it to be safe for students out there. So those are usually the thoughts that I hear from other projects when it comes to courtyards.
Right, that's, I'm bringing up that it's not right as is.
Yes, just, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the shift in where classrooms are has impacted the courtyard's use. We do use it for like some clubs right now with the Green Club, that might go out there one time a week, but it's not used to any potential extent that it could be. And I do not have a green thumb, so it's not my go-to for
So it's not something that's untouchable. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go Jen, then Emily, then Andy, then Mike. Jen, go ahead.
So I was just going to say in regards to this concept, like I feel like the architects have made the best out of this situation, but in looking at sort of the floor plan for this option, if you don't mind flipping to that slide, I just, the additions and renovation scenario, it's just so far. So if I'm going to drop off my first grader at the main entry because I prefer to drive in the morning, then that means that he or she has to walk all the way around the courtyard to the new wing. That the bus drop off, is not that close to the to some of the classrooms either. If you've got kids coming early for a before and after school type program and they're in the gym, that's far away. I mean, just the distances that one has to walk around the school to get to all these pieces is concerning. And what I'm not clear on, because I was not on the Manchester Elementary School Committee, is how important is that to the state, and how important is that to us? And I guess how do we juggle those things? And at what point do we decide, if we can decide, that the layout, especially hearing that the courtyard is not widely utilized, is just too inefficient for this age of this age range?
That's this whole process, right? That's.
Yeah, I guess where along the process does this group say, if it's even appropriate to do so now or at some point in the future, this is just too spread out. Trying to add on to a donut-shaped building it just creates such long paths of travel around the school.
It's so far away. That's
Yeah, well, just to add on that, one of the inherent challenges is that the existing gym and the existing CAF are on opposite sides of the building. Where you see in any of our new schemes, we're always joining those together for synergy and ease of use after hours. So adding the gymnasium as a new addition is still on the opposite side of the dining. So it's not really helping kind of bring those together. And that's just another inherent kind of challenge in the ad run.
So if I'm hearing Jen's question, I think she's asking, when can we just drop this off and say, no, this isn't something we want to further consider? Am I getting that right?
That's my question. And I guess my other question is, am I the only one that feels that way?
No. So what's the protocol?
So you need to study it. It's part of the process, and we need to go to the MSBA in this next submission with three options, with a reno option and a renovation addition option and a new option. So we've got to study it. So we're studying it, and I think what's going to be persuasive about it is if it's a lot cheaper.
Yep.
And to me, right now, it doesn't look like it's selling me a lot cheaper, but that would, if you find that you can save $10 million, you're gonna be really interested in the addition renovation, right? But if it's sort of the same cost, you may be much less interested.
Yep. That's why we have to study the floor plans, the layouts, and costs when it comes in for the PSR estimates between the options.
And the 4,000 extra square feet isn't helping that.
No, but it's way better plan, I think.
I think Rochelle's point is a good one though, from kindergarten to the cafeteria or from kindergarten to the nurse where they go like a lot. I mean, it's so far away. Like that meme that you see of kids we're going off on a adventure to get from one point in the building to the other. That's what it feels like to me.
Physical activity, we're building it right into the
Building
infrastructure.
independence, go by yourself. No one's gonna watch you there.
Follow the blue line.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so feedback we're hearing on this one is long paths of travel, considering age appropriateness to necessary destinations.
Is there an option that puts the new classroom wing to the right towards the horseshoe? I'm probably not, but
So it's gonna.
I know you had the grade change.
Yeah, it's going to struggle with a lot of the same conditions, right? So, I mean, you're going to be blocking your through access from Story Street or the loop.
Well, you might not completely block it, but right.
You can see the size of that footprint, right? Like, I'm not sure how, and we looked at it, I'm not sure how you would put that footprint on the Story Street side without obliterating your ability to get to curb cuts off of Story Street, right? I mean, again, that's like.
Oh, God.
So maybe you could come, you're not getting any value off of that. Maybe there's a bus drop or something, but.
And then your parking would have to go basically where you're putting, where it's showing that new.
You're kind of inverting the problem, right?
Right.
You're building your addition, but then your parking has to go in the
All the
back
way back.
field. Yeah.
All right, let's go to Emily.
Thank you. So I wanted to go back to the courtyard for a second, which I totally agree with that it's not being used to its potential, but also that it can be really like my classroom does not face the courtyard, but the ones that do, I know have had some concerns of the noise when kids are out there because they're loud. So that like sort of disruption factor of using the courtyard, I think is something to think about. And then back to this one, the A1.2B, I had a question about the main entry and the community entry being so far apart for a bunch of reasons. No, like yeah. So, but also just listening to what people were saying about the office and the nurse being so far away, is it possible to switch out where the nurse and the office are and where the media center is, which would solidify put the office in a more central position, or where the music, like in that sort of more yeah, there. Because also I feel like having that main entry, community entry, where having two different places where like a lot of people are coming in could be confusing. And it's maybe less safe for monitoring to have two semi-main entrances.
They have that at Memorial too, though, right? Like
Yes.
or am I wrong? The
So
community one's not so.
if we're doing a new building on a clean site, and this was more or less the scheme or footprint, I would say you're exactly right. I would put the purple bar, which is the office, right where probably where the orange bar in the corner is. Yeah, right there. The problem is on this site, if you try to do that, you can't park anywhere near the main entry. You'd be parking essentially behind your drop. That would have to be, you'd probably still be dropping where the main entry arrow sign says now, which is essentially like at the back of the building. And that's just not good for supervision. And also you have no place for visitors to park. So it's really a site constraint that is dictating a non-ideal program layout.
But isn't that a concern with this layout anyway, in terms of if the community areas are like way on the other side, right? The gym and the stage and those things, that's where we would be having people theoretically after hours. We've talked several times about having that ability to close off part, the classroom part of the building to the public part of the building. And also, I mean, as someone who has had some mobility challenges of late, like you wouldn't ever want the only parking to be that Story Street side. You would I imagine, have to have at least some handicap parking that would be closer to the building.
All great points. Yes. And there are challenges that we don't necessarily have solutions to yet, or may potentially never have a solution to. We could get some, I think, if you go to the two slides down, I think the introduction of the loop between the pond and the building starts to address how we might get some accessible parking. But we're never going to be able to have enough room to fit the primary parking areas for like a community function. There's just site constraints that we can't deal with. I mean, yeah.
But it's feedback and input.
Right, exactly, yeah. I mean, I think there are inherent challenges to, again, back to this is a one-story building, right? So you're taking up more room, and it's in the middle of the site. So it's just in some ways, it's just the way it is. We can certainly, continue to mitigate challenges and try to prioritize, which solutions are most important. But I sometimes feel like I brought in a couple other designers, and we were just looking at this, like, they got very frustrating. They're like, well, push it this way. Well, no, there's wetlands there too. So go this way. Well, no, there's wetlands there too. There's like wetlands everywhere.
I like the way you just put that, though. I mean, if what we have to do is submit a proposal for each of the three items, then our job is to come up with the best proposal for each of these, and it's really taking all of these and then prioritizing what we can and what we can't do on a limited.
And then how
situation.
that solution compares with another solution,
Right.
like are what are you getting if there's, back to a $10 million differential, are you getting $10 million of value by doing it differently?
Okay, Andy, go ahead. Andy, are you able to unmute? All right, let's go to Mike and then I'll check back in with Andy.
So first of all, I appreciate all the hard work. I know that this takes a lot of brain power. One thing that I was, we've kind of written off the northeast corner of the site in general because of the grade change involved with the kind of as the site falls off towards Story Street and towards Western Ave. But your concept of a 3-story building kind of got me thinking a little bit that there might be some advantage to using that grade change because we're trying to contort ourselves. The site's a big site, but because of all the constraints, you end up trying to fit a lot of puzzle pieces into what ends up being a shrinking area as you do it. And I really like the idea of trying to build this thing in one phase. As we all recognize, more phases equals more expense. So one thing when you brought up a 3-story building, which I hadn't thought of much, it gives you more of an opportunity to try to kind of put it towards the north and maybe use the grade change to the northeast to some advantage in that there's things that could go on, I don't know, my words, a kind of a lower level, like the way the gymnasium at the high school, middle school relates to the rest of the floor, where it's kind of down a little bit, but nobody cares that it doesn't have any windows because it's the gymnasium. And could you utilize a similar thought process here and kind of pushing the gym into that northeast corner, and then Story Street becomes part of your emergency access roads on the north side of the building, and kind of using the grade to the advantage to use a 3-story structure and fit it into the north side of the site. And I thought that might just be worth a quick blocking study to see if there's any traction to that thought process or whether it's a wild goose chase.
I think those are good points. Can we go to the last or second to last slide in the whole sequence, the 3-story?
Yep.
There's a couple of photos. So we did a similar thing here in that you could see the playscape on the right-hand side. This is at the back of the building, and the second story has walkout access. That's the media center on the far side. We should go to the next one. So if you imagine that slope in the middle where the playscape is, and then the media center and both wings, both arms of the building have bridges or they sit at grade level. So it would be kind of the reverse of this, where you're putting probably your access and main office on the intermediate level on the south side. But I definitely think that if we're looking at a 3-story scheme, that would be a way to do it, look at it. So I think that's worth further study. I agree with you.
Yeah, because you could still have the main entrance would face like into the site, right? The building would kind of, I don't know, my words, turn its back a little bit on Story Street and turn into the main part of the site. So you'd still end up like you'd enter the building on the second floor, essentially what would be the second floor from the main body of the site, from the inside of the site. And that you'd use kind of Story Street as a back door, or you'd kind of, you could egress the gym onto Story Street if you had to. Anyway, it might be just worth a thought into a 3-story kind of concept there.
Sure.
Yeah, I think trying to build this thing in one phase is obviously, for those who lived through it at Memorial, you probably realize that it ends up being a lot of complication. So if we do end up in a new build scenario, if we can do it in one build and then a one demo, it saves a lot of thought process or a lot of cost. And the other way of kind of pushing it all to the north would be then it opens up the rest of the site for all kinds of, organizations around parking and play fields and kind of a sensible site layout. Because I feel like we end up with a ton of site circulation in a lot of these options. kind of inefficient site circulation.
Yeah, going from 1 story to 2 story is good. Going from 1 story to 3 story is great from your site flexibility. And whether it's on the south side, which we showed previously, or now potentially on the north side, getting it to one of the edges really opens up, again, your design options.
Do we know the real limitations of the elevated parking lot? Does anybody know what's out there? Is it a gravel pile, or has anybody done any test bores to make sure it's not ledge?
I don't know that
It might just be a pile of dirt.
there's exposed ledge on the survey. I don't think it's a pile of dirt.
It's also not very big, right? Because John Duncan's kind of at the corner lot there, right?
Yes.
All right, we're gonna go to Andy. Andy, are you able to unmute? So he wasn't able to before, wasn't sure if he was.
So he put in the chat that he was gonna be switching over to his phone, and I've
Yep.
been watching attendees to see if he came in just to be like transferred over. He hasn't changed, so I don't know if he put it up then, but.
All right.
Yeah.
So he's in the meeting.
He's in the meeting.
Can you invite to unmute?
Yep.
There we go.
Success.
Success.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry. I know it's early days. We're going to go into a lot of detail on these in the coming phase, but I do like the new construction option, that L-shaped plan that in its original format where it was kind of over on the field, the existing field now. I kind of like the site layout from that perspective. I'm also open to the option of the 3-story and whatever that might offer us. And then just one question. I know on the Memorial project, the Reno ad project actually priced out as more expensive than the new construction options. And I'm assuming for the Reno option, we would have to do some seismic upgrades to the existing structure.
Was that in our structural narrative?
Yeah, that's why I asked you this earlier.
Yeah, did you?
That's why I knew this was gonna come up.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we would have to bring it up to meet current codes. That is gonna be an issue. Yeah.
Were you able to hear that, Andy?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else have comments or questions online or in person?
In person, very quickly, two really quick comments. One is on the yet to be designed 3-story thing in the front in the northeast, which I also heard would be. I would also, just in case, look at it as a 2-phase thing. I mean, it's true that 1 phase is preferable to 2, but if the 2-phase thing can be done fairly cleanly, if that allowed us to do a really wonderful option, I would look at it. Because, your basic lanes would think of blue at all. 2 phases is the end of the world. It's not ideal, but so I wish if you can't quite fit it in front, what I call the front storage side, look at one with the multiple phases. And then the only other thing about this whole thing about these 2 replacement ones, this one and the one previous to it, the A and the B, I'm a little concerned about people finding the graphics around the A option to somehow be so much more alluring than the B option, because somehow it's creating these communities. I think the B still has sort of very specific paired classrooms that can create communities.
Can go back one slide.
And I think when you see it as a big bump, you think, oh, there I see it, I understand it. This I think could also work. And the thing about this option, it really does, people may not love where the play areas are yet, but it is much more efficient for the site. I mean, it's sitting there and giving us more real estate, which is kind of persuasive to me. It also might be a little cheaper to build, but.
Go ahead, Mike.
Could we, I was wondering, did you look at just sliding this L shape further to the south to just avoid a 2-phase? It looks like there's room to just slide the whole thing southbound.
Yeah, in some ways, this is interchangeable with the option A.
Hold on, I'm trying to get to the phase. This one?
I was thinking to go the floor plan.
Oh, for B or for A?
Yeah.
This one? No, sorry.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
I mean, we could take the classroom bar from B and switch it with A, right? And they're close to the same footprint. They're just configured differently and they have more ins and outs and notches. But we could take B and crank it and have the same footprint as this and do it for one phase, right? Yeah. I mean,
the community bar just gets narrower in this phase, right? Which is what makes that circulation behind it worth it, or makes it work. In the more oblique angle one, the community bar is a deeper footprint or deeper floor plate, which kind of squeezes the backside of it.
If you cranked out the classroom wing to follow the property line, you're just getting really close to the pond. It's a little more elongated.
Yep.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around it being like a school for 250 and thinking about a 3-story building that just like puts it at like 80 kids per level, which just kind of seems silly to have a building 3 floors with that few kids on each level. So I'm just trying to like wrap my head around.
I think what you'd see is the lowest level would be less classrooms. So I think you'd end up with 2 floors of instructional, like of classrooms, and the lower level, which would probably be more like a half level, would be, more support spaces. I think that's the way it would block out. I don't think you'd end up with 3 levels of instruction space.
Or you just have pre-K on the ground.
Yeah.
Pre-K really is pretty unique, or certainly is most schools. And then 1, 2, 3 could be together, and 4, 5 could be together, something like that.
Yeah, I'm just always thoughtful about travel time between, and I know a lot of our grades do some collaboration. Our 5th grade works with our kindergarten all of the time. 5th grade is constantly working with the front office of their student leadership council. So just thinking about just the distance that kids have to travel, especially if administration's on the bottom level. It's usually the 4th and 5th graders that probably need my support the most. So just thinking about that.
I'm also wondering, just from a design standpoint, and you could probably answer my question, like the learning spaces or the neighborhood sort of vibe is really what most of the teachers here are excited about. Do you feel like that works in that kind of a footprint or no?
Yeah, I don't think that the neighborhood breakout space configuration is tied to the number of stories. I think those are kind of 2 different things.
I think for me, not being a designer,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this picture like, how did we
Right.
switch that around to make it look right?
So maybe, yeah, I would focus less on, it was this particular project was a very compact, it was basically a parking lot that they had to build vertically, right? And the program is completely different. There's hardly any special ed because there's 30 schools in the district. So all their special ed kids are in other schools. They don't have any breakout spaces. So it's just, the plan is not 1-to-1, but developing a building mass maybe. So it's more the list of programs at the bottom of the page that is more relevant than the actual floor plan itself. And then we brought that forward just as a test the waters, like, do we want to try a test fit that's 3 stories? It sounds like it's worth doing, and then we can further debate the educational merits, knowing what it looks like and what the trade-offs are. Again, it's all about trade-offs, right? You're getting more site footprint, but you have vertical challenges then, or additional vertical challenges.
We finished an elementary school in Lexington right around the same time as Memorial completed, and it's a 3-story elementary school, pre-K through 5, and they have group neighborhoods between grades 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 5. Like they're clustered all outside of their classrooms, but they're kind of like clustered in kind of like what we saw when we went to Wellesley.
Yep.
Just like that, and it works really, really well for they have 515 kids, but they started off with 350. They redistricted. So that's why they needed to build the school a little bit bigger. But we heard all the same things. And then as they got into it and they learned like how to use the space, they love it. Yeah.
It does, Honeywell, it doesn't look like it's their stuff, the school.
No, Hastings, no, Lexington. No, the one that we saw when we did the tour in Wellesley, that had like the breakout spaces, what I was talking about. They're similar to that breakout space where they're literally neighborhoods.
So it sounds like, just to sort of sum it up, that you brought this to sort of test the water. It sounds like from logistics and site perspective, that there is interest in seeing this build out and that there's concern about how this would look, you know, in terms of the educational, but once we're looking at something, then we can react to it.
Yeah,
So
You can take advantage of great protection.
yeah, it
Yes.
sounds like there's enough merit to yeah, really
The one
look at
option
specifically.
they discussed, they could put it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the three-story Story Street approach has some
Yeah.
merits that we need to look at further.
As we shared about the educational pieces, any concerns, do you think, from town perspective of a 3-story building?
So I was thinking of that, and I think that it really does come down to how it looks. It lives across the street from me. From the front, I have a 2-story house. From the back, I have a 3-story house. And when we're working with grid, it's just gonna come down to how it's designed. So if it can look like it fits with the, you know, the rest.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction is it can't look like, actually, can you go to the picture of the 3-story building?
It can't look like
From
a back.
Story Street, you don't want to see what's on the left-hand side, which is, it can't be a 3-story mass, right? So we're gonna have to kind of shear and push back and kind of have it step up the building, step up the site as it gets further back up.
But if you did pre-K on 1 floor and grade, and then K through 2 and then 3 through 5, that's 3 grades per floor. That,
Yeah, instead of
it's not.
pairs, we may look at clusters of 3.
Any other comments? Input? Go ahead, Pam.
This is way too in the weeds, I think. But one of the things that got eliminated from Memorial was some of the jags that gave it dimension. If we got some efficiency by going up, does that give us a little room to maybe get some of the jags that might give it more of that visual or that feeling of the neighborhood that people are driving for?
Sure, yeah, it could be the efficiency of the foundation system may then let you afford or not value engineer out some of the relief of the massing, especially if we're knowing it's a 3-story building. That's a challenge, right? So there's going to be a lot of pushback against that. So we're going to have to kind of keep some of that reduction of scale visually. That's going to have to be an inherent trade-off, I think. So, yeah.
Town hall is 3 stories. That's true. That's a beautiful building, and it's a civic building, the school is a civic building. The people tend to be object too strongly to civic buildings.
It does have a nice sort of, some screening, so it's not.
The site?
The site.
Yeah. We'll have to design it and see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have what you need from us then? You want some more? Yeah.
A lot of great feedback. Thank you.
Big takeaway for us is I heard challenging a lot.
Well, there's like twice as much wetlands as we thought. There's a lot of wetlands, and then there's like twice as much.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Schedule update.
So the next time we see you, we're gonna come back, Jeff's gonna come back with some changes, hopefully, that show some 3-story options as well as further refinement of the floor plans that were presented tonight. And we're gonna confirm the options that we're gonna be pricing. I'll get into that when we get into reflections as far as what we're gonna be pricing itself. Then we're coming back in March 2 times on the 10th as well as on the 24th. We have our community meeting on March 30th here at this school, where we'll talk about the preferred options. And then we'll have 2 meetings in April, one on the 14th to talk about feedback and reviewing pricing. And then ultimately we'll be asking for approval of our PSR on 428.
Thank you. Any questions about the schedule?
My only question was really about what you're gonna talk about it sounds like, but what gets priced? Like, so it sounds like, we know we're settled on the code upgrade. It sounds like we're sort of settled on the addition renovation, but then we may have an A, a B, and a C for the new.
Yes,
We don't have the C yet, but we may.
yes.
Do we have an A, B, and C? Did they all get priced?
So we had a preliminary cursory review with MSBA, actually today, where they gave us some comments back regarding where they know we're at within the PSR phase, considering that this group had made a vote at our last meeting to proceed with only pre-K through 5 options and to eliminate also the memorial sites. Because your enrollment certification that you signed with MSBA includes those 3 grade configurations, in addition to the code upgrade, at least 1 addition renovation and at least 1 new construction option, they're requiring us and asking or telling us that we have to include also an option that has the pre-K through 365 student grade configuration scenario, as well as the 515 student grade configuration scenario. So what that means is that Jeff and Fawn and their team have to create further floor plans, just like what we've been seeing today with your preferred,
Same level of detail.
to the same level of detail of the preferred options right now that are on the table, as well as those have to go to our cost estimator. So that way we can provide that information when we're evaluating all the options at the end of the preferred schematic report phase. MSBA wants us to show the work as far as costs and floor plans, so you completely understand what those options are, because you did obviously sign and execute your enrollment certification with MSBA saying that you wanted to explore those 3 grade configurations. So that is those, we have to have at least 5 right now options that are included within our PSR cost estimate that goes to the estimators, and floor plans and site plans that represent them as well.
So that's unfortunate.
It's not
But-
unfortunate, it's more or less just showing the work. It's showing the work, it's showing that you guys had agreed on those grid configurations from the beginning, and that we just need to show how you're supporting what your preferred option is. So. We're
We
still
want to
waiting.
get into this right now. Like, do you want to, if we have questions or comments about that, because I have, but I can wait and take them offline, or how do you want to do this?
I mean, we certainly don't want to restart the process with
Right.
MSBA, so obviously, we're going to continue with what we need to do during this phase, which includes producing the floor plans, getting the cost estimates, and presenting the information, so that way you guys can choose your preferred option.
All right, so then procedurally, I do have a question because I wasn't part of Memorial. In terms of the cost for taking care of all of that and pricing, does this mean that we need to limit the amount of designs that we consider for the things we're actually trying to consider right now? So we were talking about maybe, an A, B, and maybe C on new build. Well, do we need to rein in some of that, because are we going to now be over budget knowing that we have to build these others back in? How does this impact that?
I don't think this really impacts that. I think that from the beginning, JCJ knew that there could be more than just the 7 options that we originally had. So I think that comes with part of the feasibility study, is that there are unknowns as far as what options are going to come from what the initial code upgrade, addition, renovation, and new construction options are. So there's always, during this phase, possibilities of having multiple scenarios for each option. But
we're
yes,
still within the reasonable range of that. Okay.
I
That's
was
what I need to
asking
know.
the same thing too,
Yeah.
and I guess we couldn't have anticipated that we would have come up to the decision as quickly as we did.
Right.
It could have very easily continued on.
Yeah.
So, when speaking with MSBA, we have the SBC's primary preferred path, and then the technical work that the team needs to do to continue to substantiate that we're following, all of the options we signed off on.
Yep.
I think that, Jeff, taking the feedback that you heard tonight, just how you looked at it from 2 weeks ago to now, you had multiple phasing options that you looked at, but then you said, okay, A and B make sense. So we're going to study those ones.
Right.
And I think that that's the same scenario with the feedback that you're hearing tonight, is that maybe the C option that moves forward is the one that people, or whatever
Maybe it's
option,
an F.
E, F,
Yeah.
yeah, F. So, Yeah, that's all part of the process.
And most of you, yeah, it's good. Anything else on schedule update? No. Anything else not reasonably anticipated? No. Public comment? Do we have any members of the public online?
No.
And there's nobody in person, so closing public comment. Reflections and action items?
I was gonna bring up what I talked about just now, but,
You just did.
yeah, we're good, yeah.
Reflected.
Christina, did you want me to mention the geotech?
Yeah, sure, go
The
ahead.
exchange on
Yeah.
the emails on Friday, so just quickly so the SBC knows, and because you actually mentioned it, was it 3 meetings ago, SBC meetings where we talked a little bit about wetlands and geotechnical. So the findings of the 6 bores in the 3 locations obviously revealed that 5 of those bores hit bedrock relatively soon. So our consultant is recommending that the next step would be to do a series of probes, which would provide a contour of where that bedrock is. However, they don't want to do that until we have some comfort level with where new construction, whether it's an addition or a new building, would land on the site. And then they would work with JCJ and the structural engineer and also the civil engineer to come up with the best locations for those probes so that the information is most valuable to us as we're working. So as soon as we have that, we'll then proceed into creating a plan that shows where the probes would be. Do that work. That will then help to inform cost estimating because we'll be able to look at quantities and things like that. So that'll happen probably not until March. But just next steps that is coming to help with cost estimating.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. All right. In that case, I will take a motion to adjourn. Charlie moves. Is there a second? Second. Yeah. Anyone? Seconds. By roll call vote, we'll start online with Emily,
Yes.
John,
Proof.
Mike,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Yes.
Andy. Who may be not able to unmute, but I bet. In person, Kim. Yes. Kim.
Yep.
Yes. 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 It is unanimous. We are adjourned at 7:41 p.m.